So I have a really horrible story here for you guys. So obviously you guys know that back in the 2016 primary, it was massively rigged against Bernie Sanders in many different ways. The Hillary Clinton camp and the DNC essentially colluded in the summer of when the primary started. They knew who they were going to put their support behind. They tried burying the debates. They lowered the amount of debates, and they did some really shady stuff where they would have, in Bernie Sanders' favorite areas, they would have less polling places, and it was just a really out of hand, all the shit that they did. They fed questions to Hillary Clinton so that she would know prior to the town halls. So we have something really shitty. So in the New York gubernatorial race, there is a challenger from the left of Andrew Cuomo in New York. Andrew Cuomo, if you don't know, he's actually very corrupt. Preet Bharara, who is known as this guy who's like anti-Trump, he wanted to investigate Andrew Cuomo, and I think the way it worked was like there was a panel that was set to investigate Andrew Cuomo, but he shut them down. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, you can't just shut down who's investigating you. Do you have any idea how shady that looks? And not only that, but he's also has some kind of right-wing positions. I think that his position on weed was very weak. But, he's a corrupt asshole who's a corporate Democrat who needs to be taken out. Cynthia Nixon, who's a Bernie Sanders-style Democrat endorsed by Our Revolution. She's really fucking awesome. I really have my support behind her. She's a great primary challenge from the left. But here's the thing. You guys know DNC Chair Tom Perez. Despite him saying that he was going to stay neutral in primaries because that's what the DNC in its own charter says. It says, we're not going to intervene. We're going to let the voters decide. Because here's the thing. If the DNC is to intervene, right, that is unfair. Because now you're putting your support of the DNC behind a campaign that massively puts it in favor of that campaign. So it makes it completely unfair. Especially when you're the DNC, you're the fucking Democratic National, you're the party. It's ridiculous. So here's what this article from The Hill says. It says, the Democratic National Committee's deputy chairman is criticizing Tom Perez, the committee chairman, for endorsing a candidate in New York's gubernatorial race despite promising to remain neutral in primaries. Perez endorsed New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for re-election on Thursday in a break from his repeated pledges that he would not pick favorites in the party's primary races. Quote, the Democratic Party should not intervene in the primary process. It is our role to be fair to all contestants and let the voters decide. Now, here's the interesting part. It says, Ellison was reportedly not told ahead of time that Perez would make the endorsement, a sole source told Politico. So, if you guys don't know, when Keith Ellison lost to Tom Perez, by the way, Tom Perez sucks big time. When Keith Ellison lost to Tom Perez, they gave him this like fake position of deputy chairman, just to sort of have this, the unity tour that happened with Bernie Sanders and Tom Perez. It was sort of that message, the unity. But when it comes down to the real shit, you shit the bed, which is fucking unacceptable. Okay? You can't intervene in primaries. That's super unfair. You can't have the party machine go behind someone, because when you do that, it's no longer a fair playing field, because now the person who's in opposition to the candidate that you just chose to throw your support behind, they have to run essentially two campaigns. And, having this happen essentially means that effectively it's the DNC choosing who's going to be our elected officials, which is not only like fucking undemocratic, crazy, insane, but it's also really scary, because then you essentially have this small group of elites, the DNC, who aren't even elected by the people. They're elected in these certain ways by these little electors in the Democratic Party. It's fucking crazy. And, props to Keith Ellison for calling this out. They should not intervene, and Tom Perez, you should be ashamed of yourself. And no Bernie Sanders supporters got any position whatsoever in the DNC. So the DNC is effectively the same as it was with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So this is fucking unacceptable.